Well, I'll be. Yuki, why didn't you tell me you were part of the Blue Lock Project? Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Redwood4765, and Midnight Gemlord. Now, before we come to this breakdown / review of Chapter 205 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please remember to leave your comments on the chapter in the comments section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Those exclusive videos including the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, let's hop into Chapter 205. What's up, guys? Over the pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown and review of Chapter 205 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Star in Oil. And I'm not gonna lie, you're spoiling us with chapter titles, dog. I ain't even got another name for that. No, I have a complaint. I mean, well, not a complaint, because it is still Wrath of the Star. Whatever, let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we do get to see that Yuki is here. She has arrived, and she does have this weird dragon thing that she's been with since forever. Like, all the way back in her flashback with Todo, we saw she still had this weird dragon thing. And we see that Choso's like, and Yuki's like, yeah, totally got that one. Nice fight. Leave the rest to me. And Kenjaku, as he's standing by, like, this disappointment of a son, I still can't believe he made me use one of my curse technique. And poor Choso, he immediately drops. Once again, I will give him credit. Like, sure, he didn't do any real damage to Kenjaku. He made Kenjaku use his curse technique, or used a curse technique, before he ended up getting any real damage done to him with the supernovas. But even still, like, for what Kenjaku explained about special grades, and what we know generally, just based off the previous tiering system of Jujutsu, where, like, every single grade should be able to be dealt, or at least every single grade spirit is meant to be dealt with by a grade below sorcerer. Considering special grade sorcerers are above not just grade 1 sorcerers, but also special grade cursed spirits, which includes things like Rika, Sukuna, well, numbers of Sukuna. Let me not just say all of Sukuna. Like, essentially, high level cursed spirits fall beneath special grade sorcerers, and Choso, a high grade 1 fighter, was putting in that work, so I gotta put respect on his name. I gotta put respect on it. And it is funny to just see Yuki be like, alright, this is my turn. Take a nap, boy. And he immediately... However, we do get to see that with this being the case, finally, as Choso falls through the floor, quite literally, he just straight falls through the barrier, which is what I assume is just the floor. He probably went right back to Tengen, hopefully for some healing or some rest. Like, at least give that man a bed, please. Like, he earned it, he deserves it, and he deserves way more. Yuki, give him some... Let me stop. But regardless, we finally get Yuki's type, and apparently her type is a hard-working, muddy guy. And muddy, I'm not so sure Choso is. Bloody, yeah, Choso's definitely that. And he is pretty darn hardworking. So hey, you know, all you Yuki Choso shippers out there, Yoso chipper, is it Yoso chippers? All y'all Yoso fans out there, there you go. And that kind of really does explain Todo, like, in its entirety, like where he got the question from, why he's like this. Why Todo is the way he is. You can definitely see, obviously Todo had some of that to himself, but he definitely picked up a whole ton from Yuki. And I love how Yuki just has this, like, really casual exterior when dealing with Kenjaku. Like, sorcerer of 1,000 years. Man's a monster, a demon, intertwined with the fate of Tengen, the Six Eyes, like, these gigantic cursed concepts. And Yuki, for all intents and purposes, like, we don't know of a Sakumo clan. We know nothing of that. We know nothing of Yuki, at this point, at least. She's just vibing, being strong. Like, weird to say. She's essentially the female version of Yuta, in terms of just, like, special grade sorcerer, no background. Well, then again, now that I think about it, Ghetto is weird, too. Like, there's no Ghetto clan. Like, 3 of the 4 special grade sorcerers that are all designated as special grade officially, because I know people argue for Akari, people argue for a lot of the Sendai fighters, not Sendai fighters, just a lot of the fighters in the Killing Games as well. You could definitely argue they're also of that special grade tier, but at least out of the official designated ones, 3 of the 4 kind of come from no-name clans. Like, nothing. Like, sure, you can trace back some of their lineages. Like, Okotsu is distantly related to the Gojo clan. They're cousins 35 times removed or something like that. But that's a very, very loose link. It's not like Yuta's parents were sorcerers as far as we know. He did that stuff by pure accident. Sakumo, unless we get backstory in a Sakumo clan later or something like that, she has no backstory. She has no reason to be this strong. Geto just happened to be born with cursed spirit manipulation, a really powerful ability that he used really, really well. Then he became a special grade. Gojo's the only one who comes from a clan that has notoriety, which is very interesting. It makes you wonder, like, how prevalent are bloodlines really? Because when you look at most of the Zenin clan, they were kind of fodder. Like, compared to a special grade, like, I'm out here confident enough saying Daido could probably solo the Zenin clan. And Daido, I wouldn't classify him as a special grade. I classify him as a random. So it's kind of interesting to see how big notable clans like the Zenin clan, the Kamo clan, stuff like that, like, they don't produce monsters too often. Meanwhile, 3 randoms can just show up and be like, oh yeah, we're the special grades. Deuces, and then, well, not deuces, hello, and then they're here. However, with this being the case, sorry, I kind of went on a little tangent there. Yuki's like, while my type is a muddy, hard-working guy, I see. Just based on that yee haircut of yours, I'll have to beat you up until you're the same. And once again, I see the Todo influence, or at least in terms of, like, where he got the idea to get gains from, because Yuki's just clenching her fist, and you can see massive gains. She's veined up. She takes strength. But regardless, we see that apparently Kenjaku, Mr. I know it all, I planned it all, it's been in the cards since the very beginning himself, says something that I honestly never expected. Tsukumo Yuki, since they gave her the special grade designation, the administration should have information on her curse technique. But despite that, I haven't been able to get that from him. Which means that Kenjaku, the guy who knows about the prison realm, the 6 eyes, tengen, how to use her spirit manipulation, how to instantly use idol transfiguration, like, dude who knows everything, he's been around for 1,000 years, couldn't figure out Yuki's technique. Crazy. Like, just genuinely crazy. I don't know. And, like, it makes sense for the most part. Yuki is classified as a special grade, but it's clearly implied multiple times throughout the narrative that she just doesn't operate by the conventional rules of Jujutsu. Like, she's just so powerful that everyone's like, oh yeah, we have to put enough respect on her name. Like, she is a special grade, but we just don't know. Meaning, I'm assuming Yuki just does things. Which she does. She just does things and no one can stop her. W woman. But with that being the case, it's interesting to see Kenjaku, for once, on the, I wouldn't say back foot, but on even footing, right? Because, like, now, both sides are dealing in mystery. Every time you run into Kenjaku, it's kind of like, what can bro do? What are the amount of curse techniques he has? What curse spirits does he have at his disposal? What's going on here? What's happening? But now, Kenjaku, someone, once again, who's been preparing, been plotting for, a couple hundred, couple thousand, couple years, he's now able to experience that same mystery, that same wonder. And once again, for a guy whose whole goal is essentially broken down really, really simply and undervaluing a lot for the lulz, I wonder if he actually kind of enjoys it. Like, being on the side of mystery for once. Because once again, Kenjaku is so, like, nigh omniscient. I feel like he knows he cannot lose this fight. Like, one way or another, it will work out for him. Even Tengen seems to be a little, sussy. Tengen does seem to be a sussy baka, so I wouldn't even be surprised if Tengen is ensuring that some way or another Yuki doesn't end her life, but she doesn't actually win the fight, and Kenjaku gets to her. But, with that being the case, I wonder if Kenjaku enjoys it, like, it's weird, but I'd say in Kenjaku's position, I would love it. I would appreciate a new challenge, something new to acquire, a strange new world. It's always cool to learn about stuff like that, especially as someone from a scientist angle, and that seems what Kenjaku's all about, so it's cool. However, With that being the case, any good scientist knows that you do not go out into the field yourself. You send the interns out to do it. And of course, he raises his hand and says, "Keep your distance, thank you." And two hands tear through reality. And interestingly enough, Yuki immediately recognizes the cursed spirit. She even says, "That cursed spirit, it's important, right? A curse from an Asian deity that can remove any obstacles." And Kenjaku says, "Yes, a special grade cursed spirit that one can entangle a concept with its technique target. Please, show me what you can do." So this elephant thing's way more broken than I thought it was. Like, what? What does that mean? Like, conceptual attacks? Like, okay, admittedly, there's already been Duraneg. But, like, we attacking concepts now? Like, official translation. I'm gonna need you to come out and clarify this, because if we really attacking then again, the official translation has just been verbatim wrong. Like saying Gojo can wield cursed armies. So I'm not sure how much faith I can have in the official translation. But the idea that Kenjaku is talking about a cursed spirit that one can entangle a concept with its technique's target. Like, he didn't say a piece of you. He didn't say a part of you. He said a concept. Concept's a big word when we talk in verses. Concepts can get you up a couple dimensional tiers. Like, what we doing, Kenjaku? What we doing? And yeah, it's crazy to see, like, and I wonder, did Kenny get this one himself, or did Geto have this? I don't know, because we know Geto did have some special grades in store, but like, what is this thing? Where did he get it? Seemingly enough, a curse from an Asian deity. But then again, that's just Asian. They're in Japan. They're Asian. So I'm not sure where in Asia he went and got this. The design generally reminds me of Hinduism, so maybe India, but I legit can't tell you. It reminds me of, what's his name? Elephant, son of Shiva. What's his name? I'm gonna Google it. He's in Smite. Ganesha. That's what it reminds me of. The design reminds me of Ganesha, so it may just be Indian imported. But still, the idea that Kenjaku, which would make more sense, or even worse, Geto himself went to Asia and was like, or not went to Asia, he's in Asia, went to India and was like, a special great curse that is the embodiment of a deity. You come to me. Like, how do you even beat this thing? Like, we know how Yuki beats the thing. She uses blue lock. But no, but in reality, like, how do you actually beat that thing? I don't know. It seems extremely powerful. And this thing had multiple abilities too. Like, it also used some weird gravity thing as well. I don't know. This thing is weirdly busted. However, we do get to see that Yuki, upon seeing this extremely busted Ganesha looking guy, is like, Garuda! And hold on a moment. Let me take a deep look at these translation notes. Give me 1 second. So apparently Garuda in the original text is actually Phoenix Wheel. And you see, Garuda is something I've heard somewhere. I think it would. Oh, yeah, I know where. Journey from the West. Well, not. I haven't actually read Journey to the West, but I remember Garuda from God of High School. So that's where the name reminds me of. That's what triggered a deep spark in my memory. But with that being the case, interesting that her immediate response is to use Garuda to curl up into a ball, curl up into a Phoenix Wheel. I don't know. Very interesting. However, we see she wastes absolutely no time with this thing because it's obviously quite dangerous. Sure, she is a special grade sorcerer, and this is a special grade curse, meaning she should just naturally scale above it. But still, anything that deals with concepts is utterly dangerous. So she curls Garuda up into a ball, drops him, grits her teeth, and like, we need her on Japan's team. Like, obviously, the Blue Lock Project is real because Japan beat Germany. But regardless, it is insane. That's going to date this video. But it's a chapter review. It's going to be dated. But no, it is insane how beautiful that kick was. She wound that thing out hard, too. Like, she put her foot all the way behind her back and swung. And it's to the point where Kenjaku, once again, I know everything. I wrote the plot. I am literally the MC's mother. I am all. Kenjaku has this look of like shock, horror, and confusion. One eye narrow, one eye super wide, and it just blasts straight through Garuda's head. Not Garuda's head. Ganesha's head. I'm calling it Ganesha, even though I don't know if it's Ganesha. But like, That is insane. And it just went straight on through. Like, there was no problems at all. Garuda itself doesn't even look that damaged. And obviously, Ganesh's cursed spirit is not doing too hot after it just got kicked through the head or blasted through the head. And we see that Kenny, like, he seemingly had a delayed reaction. Like, I think his initial reaction that has, like, the wide eye and the narrow eye is just to the kicking motion itself, but he doesn't react to the elephant being destroyed until after we see that one look, and then he turns, and we see that Yuki, wasting no time at all, rushed in, ready to blitz, and she straight up says, "Are you afraid to get close because you don't know my technique? Guess I'll tell you. It's mass." And wow, now she gets, at least, notably, the showing your hand jujutsu property is pretty hard to quantify. Like, supposedly your techniques just get better. It is an in-universe excuse for why people explain their techniques. That's all it is. But in reality, it's still strange. Like, how much of an amp is this? Though, with that being the case, she says it's mass, and then proceeds to take her fist and mass it right into Kenjaku's face through his arm. Straight through. Like, gosh, I've seen slobber knockers in my days. I have seen slobber knockers in my days. But geez, I've never seen an armor knocker in my day. Like, golly gee willikers, Yuki. Was it really that deep? Was it really that serious? Obviously, it is. It's Kenjaku, the final villain. But still, gee, she punched the mess out that man. And we see he goes flying. And notably, she has no damage on her fist, but she sends him flying so hard and so far, he straight gets knocked out the barrier, gets sent multiple panels back, slams through a wall, and is just outside the barrier, which is insane. And it literally, like, the Sunyata barrier circular definition just popped right open. And we see that Kenny's arms, both are just, boom, one arm just plops straight off, and the other is literally hanging on by its skin. And Kenny, once again, I feel like this is the scientist in him. This is the scientist, or the person who's always excited to learn. He's like, mass, huh? That's the technique's target concept. Such overwhelming mass to a point that its concept couldn't be contained semantically or pragmatically. And that's interesting. So, something I've always imagined with, this is going to be really weird transition, but something I always imagined with Morijin's Yoi. I'm not sure how to pronounce it properly. I call it Yoi, but then again, I called Dawe for the longest time, just because I didn't watch the anime. But with that being the case, what the interesting thing is about Morijin's Yoi is that he can say grow heavier without it actually getting that much bigger. So I always wondered, like, if he just kept saying grow smaller yet denser, grow smaller yet denser, grow smaller yet denser, like, would the universe stop him at any point, or would he just be able to make like a miniature black hole? I don't know. And it seems like Yuki is one who is able to sort of take that property and make it her entire curse technique. So what Kenjaku means by its concept couldn't be contained semantically or pragmatically is pretty much overloading how much mass can be infused within a singular object. We as creatures follow the square cubed law, where as things get bigger and stronger, they drastically increase in size. And with that being the case, normally the amount of force that Yuki could pack into her still relatively small frame, she has gains, but like, she's not as big as Todo. She's probably just as big as Gojo, admittedly. But like, in terms of the big beefy people in JJK, she's not up there. But due to this ability, she's able to pack mass upon mass upon mass into herself, and thus make it so that her hits have who knows how many times the strength of regular hits. And she's probably doing this on top of reinforcing herself with cursed energy, meaning that the whatever limit that one has on cursed energy reinforcement is probably surpassed by the mass capability, because you're simply adding more and more mass, more and more weight, in order to compensate, and thus drastically increasing the power behind strikes. And we see that Yuki explains it. Notably, it was a lot more interesting in the unofficial translations I saw, where it was called imaginary mass and not virtual mass. Because here's how she explains it. She says, "Yep, that's my curse technique. Imbuing virtual mass into myself, Bombay," which translates into finish it. Wait, according to the kanji reads Wrath of the Star, according to the translator, but the Fuyurama reads Bombay, finish him. Is that a Mortal Kombat reference? But with that being the case, apparently Garuda is a Shikigami that has been turned into a cursed tool by her curse technique, and it's the only other target of Bombay besides herself, meaning she can imbue imaginary mass into that and herself. So she is a Shikigami wielder on top of her curse technique, which is pretty impressive. And with that being the case, imbuing virtual mass into oneself is a lot less interesting than imbuing imaginary mass into oneself. But hey, regardless, I can see how all the special grades are weird. Weird and stupid and dangerous and country destroying, right? Because if, say you have the mass of a mountain located into your fist, yeah, most things aren't going to do much to you, and you will most likely annihilate most creatures. And I'm just assuming, I don't know how much mass Yuki can pack into herself. She doesn't give herself a limit here. But with that being the case, it really makes me wonder whether or not Yuta has seen this technique. Because with that being the case, the Yuta having access to this technique on top of Rika would be insane. Can you imagine if Rika could imbue imaginary mass into herself? Look at how tall Garuda is. Or look at how small Garuda is, I suppose would be a better thing. That thing's so tiny. Give a full power Rika this technique? Woo! It'd be fire. But one thing is that all the special grades are now confirmed monsters, right? Geto is powerful, and I suppose Kenjaku is powerful because of the variety. He's really just like a jack of all trades. I can give you at least one everything back to back to back to back to back, and imbue it all with my cursed energy so it goes extra crazy. And that's before all the other techniques he has. Then on top of that, you have Yuki, who just has the ability to induce imaginary mass, essentially, or virtual mass, breaking all rules. Like every last one, like no rules are canon anymore. Essentially, if you get caught lacking by Yuki, your head explodes. Because she gets to hit you way harder than you think she would. I'm assuming on a cursed energy front, it must be even weirder to sense. Like with Okotsu, who's also relatively small, what happens is we see through Itadori's perspective, he's just radiating cursed energy like mad. Like bro's reinforcement is so thick and so heavy, it's literally pouring out of him. But with Yuki, I'm assuming the reason Kenjaku thought he could guard it is because he saw regular reinforcement. Like, he saw maybe a slight output of energy or something like that. Like the same aura that Yuji imagined in his fight with Yuta. And meanwhile, due to the technique, that aura is misleading. And it's actually way, way, way heavier. And all of her impacts have way, way, way more. And I'm assuming her durability and her attack potency are extremely high. Much higher than they should be. As someone who already has special grade tier amounts of cursed energy, which already should allow for insane amounts of reinforcement. Then obviously Gojo is Gojo. Like, of course he's broken. And then Yuta's obviously broken because he kind of has the best of like all three worlds. He has the variety that's provided by cursed spirit manipulation. He has the just raw insanity that's provided by Limitless. And he has the ability to be just extremely, extremely powerful through cursed energy reinforcement and Rika. So yeah, Yuta essentially is the best of them all. But with that being the case, we do get to see that Kenjaku notices that her speed hasn't slowed down at all. So the added mass that she puts on herself doesn't really affect the sorcerer. And with that being the case, I get why it's called virtual mass, because it's kind of just like, if I had to imagine how the technique works, right? What Yuki is essentially doing with the virtual mass, the extra mass she can add to herself, is like distributing stat points to herself, essentially, right? So say she has a loadout kit that has power, durability, speed, HP, stuff like that. With the imaginary mass, she could add more to her power stat and more to her durability stat. Instead of it being an overall set thing where she just adds weight to herself and adds mass and thus generally slows her down. She's mainly just distributing it at certain points. And with that being the case, that's pretty crazy. Unless the other crazy thing is that Yuki actually is slower than she could be because of the imaginary mass or the virtual mass. And she's just misleading Kenjaku with the belief that that's her speed limit. With that being the case, I don't know. I'm trusting Kenjaku on this one, though. Dude's extremely smart. He's literally using reverse curse technique as we speak. He's obviously a demon, and he can probably read it. And with the fact that she can just straight up ignore concepts, being able to use virtual mass and stuff like that, which is inherently a concept-breaking thing, none of the high-grade cursed spirits that Kenjaku has left are really going to be usable. And with just Kenjaku on his own, he actually isn't even sure if he can actually take down Yuki, which is very, very impressive on Yuki's part. Because this is the same guy who took one look at Yuta Okotsu, the guy who could mimic curse techniques, and was like, he kind of mid. Though admittedly, I see why. I mean, it's interesting, though, because I wouldn't say that Yuki is immune to all these high curse spirits, or the high level ones. She just can't be restrained by one of them at a time. Spam them. Like, if I'm Kenjaku in this situation, I'm doing the exact same thing I did to Yuji. I will just keep hitting you with different ones over and over and over and over again and keep seeing which works as I myself try to attack you and wombo combo you. Because the thing is, her ability to negate concepts seems to apply to whatever she infuses imaginary mass with. But if you hit her with techniques and stuff like that, it still should be viable, which is why I assume Kenny goes for domain later. Interesting. And with that being the case, with Kenjaku's analysis making it so that he realizes he has to 1v1 her just himself, apparently, since I guess Curse Spirit Spam is not going to work here, Yuki fully understands that the technique that Kenjaku used was gravity. Kenjaku has some other curse technique besides curse spirit manipulation and the body hopping technique, and that must be gravity. The curse techniques extracted by Uzumaki have to be single use only, since he didn't use auto transfiguration that has already been revealed to me. Considering that Kenjaku can use reverse curse technique, it's highly unlikely he'd waste a single use technique on such a situation, so Kenjaku's third technique must be gravity. Some things here though. 1, how did he get that third technique? Does he get to keep the technique of the previous bodies he's been in? If so, he should have way more techniques. 2, that's a massive nerf to curse spirit manipulation. Like, I thought once you extracted a curse technique, you could use it freely, but now it's literally just a booty version of mimicry. Like, admittedly, it comes with Uzumaki, which is a very powerful attack, but the fact that you only get one-shot uses of each one, yeah, I'd just rather keep the cursed spirit around, enhance them with my cursed energy, and make them do my bidding. It's called cursed spirit manipulation for a reason. I don't know why you would ever use Uzumaki in that sense. Like, what would have stopped Kenjaku from just re-releasing Mahito fully healed and then being like, hey, do this now? I don't think the cursed spirits that Kenjaku controls can rebel against them, and sure, Mahito has sentience, but still, I don't think it's enough sentience that could just overwhelm the properties of the curse technique. I don't know. That's a massive nerf. I would never use Uzumaki at that point. I would just constantly be jumping you with different cursed spirits of high variety. Like, can you imagine if he had all the special grades? That'd be insane. But with that being the case, gravity is an interesting technique for Kenjaku to have. Just because of how generally strange it is. I don't know. Like, nothing about Kenjaku from past or present really gives me a vibe of like, oh yeah, this guy has a gravity technique. Like, beyond all shadow of a doubt, this guy has gravity. I don't know. I mean, like, he has a great, massive effect on the world of Jujutsu. Obviously, he's the reason the world of Jujutsu is going through what it's going through right now. So I guess he has great gravitas. Like, he's obviously a showman and stuff like that. But in terms of just raw gravity, it kind of catches me off guard. However, with that being the case, Yuki's still in a very bad situation, because just because he has those 3 techniques right now, the body hopping, curse spirit manipulation, and gravity, he could have just used more Uzumakis to have more one-off techniques as far as she's concerned. However, with that being the case, he can't have too many, because he could hypothetically overload his brain memory. And ironically enough, my idea of saying Riko was just essentially a backup storage unit is true, because Yuki straight up calls Okotsu's Rika a storage mechanism. So, there you go. And with that being the case, Yuki's like, alright, so I gotta assume he has at least a 4th curse technique that he can use at once. And with that being the case, this sucks. And obviously, with Kenjaku, he's still considering, like, considering Jujutsu Tech's definition of special grade, Tsukumo Yuki might even have an extension of the technique with high curse energy output as her trump card. And I love how both of these extremely powerful individuals with a whole ton of mystery behind them are both annoyed with the lack of information they have with each other and just call each other a pain. I love it. And we do get to see that Kenjaku, realizing the situation, is not very happy. And on top of that, Yuki also realizes that we're in a really rough spot, because according to the plan, I get Kenjaku to expand his domain. Next, I back him into a corner once the after effect of the domain expansion takes hold and enters a state where it's hard to use curse techniques. Even if I'm in the same state, I have Garuda, so I can win. To get this plan to work, I'll have to chip away at Kenjaku, reducing the intensity of his domain as much as possible. And that's risky, because if Kenjaku has a sure hit domain, then she somehow has to fight that off. She may have access to simple domain, but even so, that's pretty risky to use against someone like Kenjaku, the second greatest barrier user. And with that being the case, we get a quick no, we aren't doing this. Our curse techniques aren't suited for fighting each other, but you still haven't expanded a domain. You're practically confessing you don't have faith in your ability to win a domain battle. And Kenjaku immediately goes to open his. And Yuki's like, oh, well, so much for that. And the domain expansion begins. Domain expansion, all enveloping Garbadhatu. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce. Someone tell me to pronounce that down below. With that being the case, immediately with this domain expanding, and it's looking quite malevolent, it kind of looks like Hanami in some ways, tengen is immediately called for. And as Kenjaku's expanding, he's like, what? And tengen straight up asks, oh, will I make it in time? Kenny. I mean, I keep calling him Kenny. Tengen, you're a little bit sussy right now. You better make it in time. You better not let Yuki fall like this. But interesting, very interesting. It's cool to see that Yuki ended up baiting out Kenjaku's domain nigh instantaneously. That's really, really cool. And I'm interested to see how this goes from here. Overall, this is a really, really, really solid chapter. I like how it finally, and by finally, I mean finally, gives us a taste of Yuki's power, why she's viewed as a special grade, why she's so dangerous. And finally, it really pays off all the hype, essentially, that's been behind Yuki ever since she was introduced. Literally, when we were introduced to Todo? And how long ago were we introduced to Todo in the series? Like, around the 50s, I do believe. So, that's crazy. Getting to see how these two interact, how this new mysterious sorcerer of the modern day deals with one of the oldest sorcerers around in Kenjaku, and just absolutely slams him, and forces Kenjaku into a point of mystery that we've never seen him be in the entire series, which is great to see. I love seeing stuff like that, and it's great to see him use things like reverse curse technique and showing off his new powers. And now we get Kenjaku's domain expansion, which is really, really cool. Overall, we get a whole ton in this chapter, and I'm super excited for the next one. Kage just knows how to make it work. However, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that notification bells to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month to get these exclusive videos, early content, and more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.